Hey, what is going on, crypto people? Happy Talk That Talk Thursday to each and every one of you. Hey, listen, little Miss Crypto C's don't want to go to the store for me, man. She's not going to go to the store for me. Can't believe it. I'm hurt right now. She doesn't want to go to the store for me. But in any case, listen, the Magnificent Seven, the Magnificent, yeah, you know those Apples and Googles and Netflix dudes, the Amazon dudes. Yeah. They lost over 1.75 trillion in value over the last 10 trading sessions. There's some trouble. We're going to get into that one. We're going to go over the FlareFi summer call. Let's take a listen to that together. Listen, very, very interesting interview with RFK Jr. Very interesting. Interesting for sure. And it's also interesting that the XRP Entertaining Content Creator Group didn't share the real deal of that conversation. They didn't share the real deal. They only shared, the part that, anyhow, they didn't share the real deal. Unbelievable. So we're going to get into that as well. A lot of crazy stuff going on X. I mean, all kind of crazy stuff going on X right now. Hugo is sounding the alarm. Hugo Filion of Flare Networks is sounding the alarm. You better get to, stop hoarding this F-test XRP and get to minting, baby. Get the minting. Hey, Pookie. I responded to that and said, you have to be able to mint in order to get rid of this XRP, this F-test XRP. I said, haven't been able to do so in days. And as soon as I hit post, I go and check once again because I already checked this morning. As soon as I hit post, I go to do it again. And either Hugo was listening to me or the gods were saying, you shouldn't have put that. He shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have posted that to Hugo. What can you say? Well, I was able to mint. What can you say? Pookie said, I see that, LOL. So, I mean, like, it's unbelievable. As soon as I did it. What's going on, Alex G? What's going on, bro? So listen, we're going to go over this Flare stuff. This is important. But I got to tell you, I think what's more important than the FlareFi summer recap is RFK Jr. speaking about Bitcoin. They're at the Bitcoin conference. Been interviewed by Scott Mike Melker. And I think it's Melker and Caitlin Long. Interesting interview. You got to listen to the whole thing. Don't listen to the edited out versions from the XRP Entertaining Content Creators. Unbelievable. Just a couple pieces in there that you want to listen to. Now, I listened to the whole thing on the way back from picking up my machine from the car dealership. Fascinating. I'm going to tell you, you got to listen to this thing. It's fascinating. It really is. Listen, what's going on with the numbers right now? The Bitcoin get down to 63. It's not back up to 65. It's back up to 65. Smokes. Well, I'm glad I got my little buy-in when I did. We're going to go over the numbers, We'll go over the numbers because the market is doing what it does. We'll go over those numbers. Hugo said something about Solidify as well. MetaMask, you'll be able to mint from the MetaMask wallet. Interesting. Hugo, anyway. We're going to hear from Ryan Sean Adams as well, talking about Mike Novogratz. I don't know why, but we'll cover that. We'll cover that for sure. Let's go over these numbers real quick while people are checking in. Might as well go over some of these numbers. Let's do it. Go over this market cap according to CoinGecko, the one CoinGecko. Let's see here. I should get a sponsorship or something from CoinGecko, I think. All right. According to CoinGecko, the total cryptocurrency market cap is down 2.5% in 24 hours. Yeah, 2.45 trillion currently. Bitcoin dominance says 52.8%, which means it's probably higher than that. Bitcoin is currently trading at $65,308 again. It's up 5.6% on the 30-day. Ethereum is trading at $3,100. Why is Ethereum going in the other direction? It's interesting. $3,100, roughly, and it's down 7.4% on the 7-day. Solana is trading at $170. It's up 23% on the 30-day. XRP is trading at 59 cents. It's up 25%, might as well say, on the freaking 30-day. Well, isn't that interesting? Oh, by the way, those are the numbers, fam. But I want to do this again just to remind you. Solana on the 30-day is up 23.4%. If we keep going down with the top 50, make sure I didn't forget anything. Okay. Let's see. Where is it? Dog with hat. Solana meme coins up 20% on us. 30-day. Bonk, Solana meme coins up 16% on a 30-day. I don't know what Floki is. I gotta be honest. Where's the other one? Ooh, my Ondu is down. Oh, 94 cents for Ondu. Feels like a little buying situation there, under $1. We'll add to the position there. I didn't notice that. Okay, Jupiter Exchange, Solana, up 17%. Two meme coins up 17%. The asset itself is up 20-something percent. Jupiter Exchange is up 17%. I'm just saying, there is this thing called the Solana ecosystem, and it seems to be doing okay. What is this helium? HNT. Is this, which helium is this? Is not helium mobile, right? I mean, let's check this helium out. It's not helium mobile on Solana, right? This is a different helium, right? No. This is the helium from Solana. It happens to be up 50-something percent on the 30-day. This thing was trading at an all-time low of 11 cents, and it's now trading at $5.28. Their token got a good circulating supply compared to its total supply. $884 million market cap. A project out there competing with T-Mobile and AT&T and et cetera, et cetera. 53% Solana ecosystem play. I mean, I don't know. It's down 90% from its all-time high. 90%. Interesting. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. I'm not sure if I would get in on this or not. But in any case, in just pointing to the ecosystem that is the monster that is Solana. I just showed you 5 things. I didn't even look at Devour Go. I didn't even look at freaking what's the other one? Hive Mapper. I didn't even look those up. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Let's get into the chat, see what's good. You know what they say, go to where your assets are treated best. Alex G said, I bought $100 worth of Constellation in this dip. Nice. Gotcha. XRP Nick's in the building. What's going on, XRP Nick? There's someone in the stream that's really big. Is it you, Alex, who's really big on Constellation? I feel like there's someone else. Is it Paul Bogo? I think it's Paul Bogo. I think it's my guy, Paul Bogo. You know, you can't own everything. Just give yourself some grace, right? Don't beat yourself up. You can't own everything. It's too many great things out there. You can't own them. You can't own them all. You can't own them all. Uh-oh, Leo's like, lawsuit ends tomorrow, boys. Okay. Okay. Yeah, but is that all lawsuits? Or is it just the remedy phase of this SEC versus Ripple lawsuit? You know, because we need to clip the wings of these appeals. That has to be done and over with. Then, my friends, it will be time to celebrate, in my view. When we clip the wings of any inkling of a lawsuit, an appeal to this lawsuit, that's when we clip the wing, we get rid of that. It's going to be some smooth sailing. Oh, by the way, this is in reference to XRPL, if you can get it. I sent both an Ethereum token and Bitcoin. You know, the stuff that's slow. You know, the stuff that's expensive to move. Yeah. I sent both of those assets to one of my hardware wallets. One cost 56 cents, the other cost 83 cents. They both showed up in less than 2 minutes. You remember the days, Alex Yeet, where it used to cost you $50 to send $100 in Bitcoin? You remember those days? Ethereum used to cost you $30. No, I'm kidding. Ethereum used to cost you like $15 to send $17. You remember those days? You guys remember those days? Yeah. And by the way, I used the most expensive exchange in the history of exchanges. That is Coinbase. I forgot. I messed up. I think I told you guys this morning in my stream. I'm like, shoot, I messed up. I was supposed to use freaking Kraken, and I used freaking Coinbase. I have to I got to put a post-it note up there. Don't use Coinbase on your DCA. Use Kraken. It's cheaper. It's cheaper. And Uphold is expensive too. Yeah. Because they're both the same thing. They're like brokers, type deal. So 56 cents, 83 cents Ethereum token and freaking Bitcoin. Hundreds of dollars, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It wasn't $1,000. It was hundreds of thousands for each one. Showed up in a couple minutes. Leo Messi said that's not bad. In comparison to what it used to be, it's outstanding. Here's my point, though. The XRPL in 2016, when I got into crypto, in 2017, was moving anything of value in 3 to 5 seconds for less than a penny. In 2024, the XRPL ledger is moving anything of value in 3 to 5 seconds, not minutes, for less than a penny. You got 50 mil to move, where are you going to move your Bitcoin? Some say, well, 50 million, they don't care about the fees. What about those institutions that got to meet those market numbers? Is less than a penny going to matter? Heck to the yes. It's going to matter. 56 times what you can move it for on the XRPL, of course it's going to matter. Now, to you and I, man, you should have seen me celebrating moving my freaking Bitcoin for 83 cents. You should have seen me celebrating up in this joint. Miss Crypto Siege thought I lost my mind. I was freaking celebrating. I was celebrating. 83 cents. What the world? What happened? I was celebrating. I moved my ETH in the middle of the godforsaken afternoon. In the middle of the afternoon. Yeah. Just give us 56 cents for that transaction. What? But that XRPL, baby. That XRPL. I just moved a couple, I just moved a couple K the other day. You know what I mean? That 0.00001, baby. Do you understand? I mean, Solana's like a penny. Solana's like a penny, 0.01, it's about a penny. Do you see what I'm saying? Ripple X has just got to get it going. They got to get it going, baby. They got to get it correct. This stable coin's got to be correct. I'm telling you, it's going to change the game. It's going to change the game. We got to get those TVL and those daily active user numbers up. It's going to change the game. I'm telling you. Thank God they've shifted their focus, because people don't like to say, well, they lost in payments. No one said they lost in payments. They've shifted their focus to the freaking ledger. Bring all that ODL and liquidity hub stuff onto the ledger. Let's go and get this DeFi thing going. Will you? Let's go. Let's get it going already. Let's get it going already. Alex G said, release XRP Beast. Let it fly. We want some love. Hold them for 6 years. Enough. Bye. Indeed. I bring up the point of moving this Bitcoin and Ethereum for a reason. Number one, so that you don't keep listening to the XRP entertaining content creators who keep telling you about how slow and expensive stuff is, living in yesteryear. Okay, Leo keeps saying this, bro. We're gonna have to see. We're gonna see. We're gonna do live stream tomorrow. See if Leo is correct. Leo is saying tomorrow is gonna be a good day. He's saying this lawsuit stuff ends tomorrow, boys. We'll see. We'll see. We're gonna tune in. We'll hook up again tomorrow. All right, so let's go over. I first want to go over this RFK Jr. thing because I think it's important to understand, given his family history and all these different things. You got to get, why is he saying this about this asset? Like, why? What's the reason for that? What's the reason for it? Let's get into it. Move accordingly. What's good? I missed you checking in, my guy. How are you? Siege, hope all is well. How is everybody? Yeah, everything's good. Move accordingly. Appreciate you checking in. Joseph Santos is in the building. Any word on the lawsuit with Ripple? No word. No word. Yeah, Leo seems to think some stuff's going to be ending tomorrow, though, Joseph. We'll see. All right, let's take a listen here real quick. Okay, let me do the beginning, and then I got to go to minute 30. Just real quick.
Industry leaders and experts in Bitcoin, but also in Fed and monetary policy. We're honored to be here with Robert Kennedy Jr., independent candidate for President of the United States. You took the world by storm last year at this very conference when you laid out your Bitcoin policy, explained your ownership of Bitcoin, had some bold ideas for the industry. Perhaps you could give us a quick recap of your Bitcoin journey.
First of all, Scott and Caitlin, thanks for having me. It's really good to be back with you guys. And I'm really happy to be here at the Bitcoin conference. I feel very aligned with this movement. I think it's, we all understand that it's a movement that it's more than about increasing the size of your pile and whoever dies with the most stuff wins. The people who are involved in Bitcoin are almost completely people who are interested in, who are committed to Bitcoin for idealistic reasons, because they're committed to personal freedom, to property rights, to self-sovereignty, to integrity in government, to extracting America from from this destructive war economy, which is completely dependent on fiat currency and the capacity to print huge
wanted to bring that. I wanted to share that little clip there. I'm going to share another one here in a second. But he never said anything about down with the banks and all that, stuff, right? It's the more important stuff, like property rights, your own sovereignty. It's that kind of stuff, right? It's really the ethos, right? And I think it's important that we really understand that we're in a position that we know who the real enemy is. Who the real enemy is. He speaks to central bank digital currencies, by the way, in this video, and the ills of it. He says in this video, Leo Messi, that any and every government that has the ability to take control of you will take control of you. And I'm paraphrasing that. If you give them this power of a central bank digital currency, they're going to manipulate it to be able to hold control over you. Let me share this again.
Of the United States. You took the world by storm last year at this very conference when you laid out your Bitcoin policy, explained your ownership of Bitcoin, you had some bold ideas for the industry. Perhaps you could give us a quick recap of your Bitcoin journey.
First of all, Scott and Caitlin, thanks for having me. It's really good to be back with you guys. And I'm really happy to be here at the Bitcoin conference. I feel very aligned with this movement. I think it's, we all understand that it's a movement that it's more than about increasing the size of your pile and whoever dies with the most stuff wins. This is the people who are involved in Bitcoin are almost completely people who are interested in, who are committed to Bitcoin for idealistic reasons, because they're committed to personal freedom, to property rights, to self-sovereignty, to integrity in government.
I think that's pretty cool. All right, so let's look into another part here. This is still some interesting stuff. I was like, where did he get this from? All right, let's go here.
Boeing, Lockheed, all of the military contractors, they're making the money on the war. They have the contract for rebuilding Ukraine. They're going to make another $500 billion on that.
He's talking about BlackRock.
Voted to the Democrat and Republican Party, and this whole thing is fixed and it's rigged, and they don't even have to come to us and say we're going to have another one of these wars. They just print the money. And, BlackRock, Larry Fink is buddies with the Fed, and it's all a very, very incestuous and corrupt problem. Bitcoin is not only an off-ramp to this inflationary highway, which is the highway to hell, but it also is a way of restoring integrity to our government. It's a way of restoring personal freedoms. It's a way of the middle class can insulate itself from inflation, which is just a form of government theft.
To that end, would you be willing to add Bitcoin to the balance sheet?
Yeah, I will. I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually do a kind of a basket of hard currencies, of maybe platinum and gold and other hard currencies, and begin issuing at least a class of treasury bills that are anchored to hard currency, let's say the first year by 1%, and then maybe the next year by 2%, and to watch how that goes, because that will inject a discipline into the product and ultimately get up to 100%. I would like to have the federal government begin to buy Bitcoin, and to over my term of office, ultimately have an equivalent amount of Bitcoin that we have gold, because Bitcoin is an honest currency. It's a currency that's based on proof of work. And everything's on the ledger, it's decentralized, and that's what we need to do with democracy. If we want to save our democracy, we need to decentralize. And Bitcoin is honest because there's nobody in charge, and it's it is the template for that vision of decentralization, for personal sovereignty, personal control, and personal freedom.
Well, the antithesis of what you just described is everybody's greatest fear, which is a central bank digital currency, a CBDC. You talked about social credits in China. We know that over 100 countries in the world are actually doing pilot tests for central bank digital currencies.
Could you imagine the argument to no one's in control of it, it's decentralized? Can you imagine the argument to that being, well, whoever owns the most of it can manipulate it? Is that somehow different than any asset in crypto? Let's say you're part of let's say you're part of Helium. You have the Helium token. The total supply is 223 million, and one person has 160 million of that 223 million. Is that asset somehow not a good asset to have because a person can control it? Any asset where somebody has more than the rest of us can be controlled. There isn't an asset that is exclusive from that. There isn't an asset that's exclusive of that. You know, it's hard to make that argument. Well, since there's only 21 million, whoever holds the most of it can manipulate it. That's true of any asset, right? And I was trying to understand that argument, and I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. Of course, that came from an XRP entertaining content creator, but let's continue.
People fear that it would be a violation of their freedoms, their privacy. The government would know exactly what you did with your money and when, to take your taxes directly out, decide what you spend on. How would you protect us against that?
It'll also give the government the power to control you, absolutely, because digital currencies, central bank digital currencies are programmable. So you're using a plastic. In China, they actually use their faces as the credit card, and you have a social credit card score. So if you do something, if you criticize your government, or you're not wearing a mask, you're wearing it below your nose on a mask day, or you get too close to your girlfriend on a social distancing day, and you're observed by the facial recognition systems, which are ubiquitous to China. Then they deduct that from your social credit score. And then when your score drops below a certain level, your currency begins to program. So your currency may say, oh, you've been bad, and therefore we don't want you to travel. You're under kind of house arrest, and your credit card, which is your face, is only going to work, let's say, hypothetically, in grocery stores that are within a certain radius of your home, so a walking distance from your home. You can't buy gas with it. You can't buy an airplane ticket. You can't buy any luxury items, or you can only, it allow you to live. And you imagine if the government had the power to do that, and we know they'll use it. Anytime you give them a government power, ultimately it will abuse that power to the maximum extent possible.
Anytime you give a government the power, they will abuse that power to the maximum extent possible. Guys, do me a favor, hit that like button. That'd be super, super cool. We're going to get to this FlareFi summer recap for sure, but we always like to get just as many likes if we got viewers in the stream. That would be awesome, awesome, awesome. And if you're hanging out, listening to and watching the Crypto Season, you haven't subscribed to the channel, if you've been enjoying those hangouts, please consider subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to ring that notification bell. We're trying to get that number down from about 50% who are hanging out, watching, and not subscribed to around 25% or so. And you can do your part to help us get there, to help make that happen. Leo says, no UBI or CBDC on me. The real big wheels in the building. What's going on, guy? He says, RFK is my guy. I hear you, man. Alex G says, I want to stake my XRP on Flare, then sell on USDX, then get reward 4% on USDX and 2% on Flare. Double keeping for what I heard. Did you hear that from the real estate guy? Alex G? Alex G says, BlackRock ETFs on your crypto is going to manipulate the market on our cryptos. I mean, RFK is basically saying that BlackRock is not to be trusted. What happened to down with the central? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Alex G. This is what I'm saying. BlackRock ETFs on your cryptos going to manipulate the market. What happened to down with the central banks and government? That's the thing. The BTC Maxis, they welcome the adoption and exposure because of the ETFs, but they are 100% making sure that they tell their people, don't get an ETF, just go get natural Bitcoin. Just go get Bitcoin. You don't need these ETFs. The ETFs are just exposure. It's bringing an audience. It's grabbing attention. They're not down with BlackRock, but they're going to leverage BlackRock the way BlackRock tries to leverage us. That's the game. And RFK is, I mean, he was emphatic about not being able to trust BlackRock. Somehow, some way, they got themselves into the rebuilding of the Ukraine. Isn't that interesting? You can work around and create workarounds to get the war because you own all the major defense companies. And then you can get awarded the cleanup of the mess you created. Meanwhile, sacrificing everyone else's children but your own. You understand? There's a guise that happened in the US. There was a hoodwink and bamboozle that happened to the US. This idea that we were going around saving people. Yeah, we're going to go to war and kill and have others killed because we're saving a group. When the reality is it was just about profit. The hoodwink was to say we're the saviors. We're rooting out the evil. In order to continue with that, guys, they had to create more evil people. They had to create more evil people. Do your homework on what happened to the dude from Libya. Do your homework from the people who said, you know, this dollar thing and, you know, having to deal with SWIFT, you know, I think we're good. Do your homework on those 2 or 3 people and what happened to them. This is what the digital asset space movement, like RFK appropriately termed it, is about. He also said it's not about number go up, which is what I've been saying. It's about the ideologies. It's the principles. It's recognizing that, no, we know the ills. He says in this video, I'm going to leave the link for you guys. He says that I am putting up and I am spreading the word that transactional freedom is just as important as freedom of speech. Our ability to transact, transactional freedom. He tells the story of Trudeau wiping out people's ability to spend their own money. the truckers. He wiped it out. Well, how did he know? Because all the truckers were driving cars with license plates and were able to get their driver's license numbers, which was able to get their identity and froze their accounts. That's what the digital asset space offers. That an alternative to that kind of thing. It's probably why it's important to hold that physical gold and silver. It's transactional freedom. I can send you crypto, you can send me crypto. It's transactional freedom. Yeah, it probably was illegal, Leo, but no one got arrested. Trudeau didn't get arrested. He didn't get thrown out of office. He gave the orders. He gave the orders. It was a mess. Next thing you know, Bitcoiners were sending Bitcoin. Crypto people were sending crypto. The truckers were doing their thing for a reason. Hey, Siege, can we stake on Flare, says Inkpen27. Can you stake on Flare? You can stake on the P chain on Flare Networks by way of the Bifrost wallet if you have at least 50,000 Flare. You can stake your FLR on Flare Networks by way of Scepter, SCEPTRE, that is on Flare. And you don't have to have a minimum of 50,000 to do that. Paul Bogo checked in. I was just talking about you, my friend. Hey, bro, I hope all is well. I think everyone should remember that BlackRock is the devil. Isn't that convenient? I mean, RFK mentions it in this video. I'm going to leave the link here. How they own, by the way, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, they own like everything. And I mean like everything. He mentions in the video that BlackRock owns all the major defense contracting companies. They own them. They own them. So, isn't it interesting that we keep constantly getting into some stuff? We keep constantly coming up with an enemy. We keep constantly doing things to irritate and provoke. Think about it. It's become an industry. War has become an industry for people to profit from. Think about that. I mean, seriously, think about that. It's crazy. You're welcome, Inkpen27. Farming pools on Enosis, says Zober. Yeah, you can put your FLR on some farming pools as well. So I just wanted to point it out. Let me get this link to this video. Highly recommend you guys listen to every second of this thing. If you want to get the full story, he also says in this video that a good portion of his net worth is in Bitcoin. His words, not mine. Paul Bogle says we are being played with like toys. Indeed. That's the hoodwink. It's the bamboozle. It's the sleight of hand. Oh, there's another bad guy. Oh, there's another bad guy. Let us come to the rescue. There's a link for that interview. It's really, really good. RFK is really, really good. All right, so let's get into FlareFi Summer, man. I know you guys came for that. Let's go over this call. Let me find it. First, Hugo was sounding an alarm. It's pretty funny. You're like, you guys hoarding all that F-Test XRP. It's not doing us any good. All right. So Hugo says, unless you are an agent in the FSS system, hoarding more than 1,000 F-Test XRP after whatever time that is midnight, 40 UTC tonight, will count heavily against you when it comes to earning rewards from the open beta. In order to avoid bots setting up thousands of addresses and then holding 1,000 F-Test XRP in each, rewards will only be paid to those addresses on Constant that also hold, stake, or delegate meaningful amounts of FLR, Songbird, Wrap FLR, or Wrap Songbird. So make sure that you use the same address on Constant as on either Flare or Songbird, but please practice good security. Then I put this out, and then it's not a great look when I put that out. Seconds later. Oh, by the way, before we get to this thing here, Ryan Sean Adams of Bankless says, I just spoke to Mike Novogratz. He's very confident Kamala Harris will flip pro-crypto. The most bullish possible world is for both presidential candidates to fight for us in an escalating game of pro-crypto one-upmanship. It's a political, it's unfortunately, it's become a political thing. It's really a tragedy. Oh, let me comment the Cabosi letter. The Cabosi letter said this the other day. The Magnificent Seven have lost another 500 billion of market cap. Let me do this one. Trillions of dollars of market cap are moving right now. The Magnificent Seven has lost a combined record of 1.75 trillion of market cap over the last 10 trading sessions. The second greatest loss occurred in Q2 of 2022 when the group erased 1.4 trillion in a 10-day period. To put this into perspective, the largest company in the world, market value, Apple, is 3.35 trillion, roughly double the loss just seen. In percentage terms, the Magnificent Seven saw its biggest daily loss since October 2022 on Wednesday. A much needed correction is here. All right, so let's take a listen to this. Hugo said this is going to be an exciting one. All right, let's see. I like the first one better. Are they live now, the Bitcoin conference? I guess they are. Okay. Won't let me skip through. We're going to have to play through this music, I guess. Hope I don't get copyright strike for this music. I can't fast forward it. Oh boy. Let me get to the chat to this thing. No volume? You guys can't hear me? Paul Bogo is saying no volume. XRP Chuan, when you mean stake, No, there's no, oh, there's something called Stake Kai, STYKI. I'm not familiar with it enough, but apparently you can do some type of staking XRP there. Lending and borrowing would be more of my deal, especially lending. Paul Bogle, are you saying you can't hear anything? Oh my God, come on already. I can't fast forward it.
Hey Hugo, how are you?
Good, thanks. How's it going?
Yep, all good here. Very busy as always, as I'm sure you are too. We've got an exciting call ahead of us today for this installment, the July edition of the Flare ecosystem call. We've got some incredible guests, and we're just, I believe, waiting for Anita to come up here. There is an invite being sent, so I think she should be joining us very soon. I guess before we get into things, anyone that's in the audience that wants to help spread the word, feel free to like and share this this space. I believe it is being recorded for those who miss it at a later date. But maybe let's give a brief overview of the agenda for today. So we'll start with a rhetorical question, and it is, is the second wave of DeFi summer on the horizon? Well, for the Flare community, it could be happening in the very near future because many of you have heard the hashtag FlareFi summer, and it actually originated from a community observation of increasing activity in the DeFi space on Flare. And today, we're going to introduce the latest DeFi primitives that are being built on top of the Flare network. We've got some incredible guests. As I said before, we're going to meet the teams behind Layer 0, Stargate, and SparkDex, and we're going to understand their vision and explore how they're adding value to the Flare network. And then we will conclude with some insights from the main man Hugo himself on Flare's vision of growth for 2024 and beyond. And just in time, welcome to all the guests. I guess maybe it's worth going through the panelists today and maybe giving a brief introduction of who you are and where you are, what business you're representing. So maybe let's start with Kenny.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me on. I'm Kenny. I lead ecosystem growth here at Layer 0. Layer 0 is an omni-chain interoperability protocol that connects currently 80 chains and allows for any arbitrary packet of data on the internet to be sent from one chain to another. So not necessarily limited to bridging or token transfer, but really endless opportunities.
That was very concise. I can tell you've done that a few times before. We're going to be digging, I guess, more into this in just a moment. But let's maybe move on to Angus. Could you briefly introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hello. Hoping that people can actually hear me. I couldn't hear Kenny, but I assume he gave a very good introduction of himself and Layer 0. I'm Angus Orlamps. I lead the Stargate Foundation, which supports the Stargate Finance protocol. Stargate Finance is the largest bridge in DeFi at the moment. It was the first application built on Layer 0 and still is the largest, and very recently deployed to the Flare ecosystem.
Very exciting stuff. And finally, Anita, could you give a brief introduction and then we'll get the party started?
Sure. Hello, everyone. So my name is Anita, and I'm the BD representative for SparkDex. And I have been in the blockchain industry since 2021, working as a business development position for multiple projects from GameFi to DeFi development. And moreover, I also working as a marketing manager for some GameFi project for around 2 years. And now, yes, BD representative for SparkDex.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And for anyone that's in the audience, it's definitely worth following everyone on the panel list today, just to keep up to date with everything that is being built on the Flare ecosystem and beyond. So, you know, the Flare network community is obviously expanding at a rapid pace. So, Hugo, I know you've done this many times, but maybe it's worth just giving a quick overview of what the Flare network is for anyone that's new to the space.
Absolutely. So Flare is EVM Layer 1 blockchain. It's very, very focused on decentralized data. We're aiming to be a full stack data solution. So prices, time series data, Web3 data, and eventually off-chain compute. So that is essentially very different to existing blockchains, which, you know, very rarely, or if at all, and I don't think many do, integrate their own native data protocols. We've secured our data protocols with our validators and the stake that sits behind them and the delegation that sits behind them. This gives us really a lot more safety than pretty much any other data protocol out there. So it means that people can come to Flare, they can build on Flare quite rich applications that allow them to consume data from many other networks. And quite interestingly, when you integrate data, you know, and you enshrine data into a blockchain, it also lowers your cost of data because you no longer have to have a token that is specifically just about being a data protocol. So this gives us some very interesting advantages relative to projects like Chainlink, where they have to have a relatively high cost of data because that is associated directly with the token, whereas Flare is much more interested in what can be built with data at the lowest possible cost.
Perfect. Thank you, Hugo. And, you know, I think it's super important, you know, these applications that are relying on data, that it is high integrity. And with the number of validators out there supporting the network, you can be sure that the data on Flare is very high integrity. But I guess moving on, Hugo, there was a recent proposal that did pass. I believe it was 510 million FLR, which is quite a substantial amount of emissions to help incentivize and I guess drive the adoption of various DeFi protocols in the space. Maybe you could elaborate on that before we jump into the various projects today.
Absolutely. So yeah, our emission protocol passed a couple of weeks ago through governance. It is a 510 million Flare over at least a year. May end up being far less than that, depends on you know, how it evolves, but basically it gives the foundation
It's
and
not a great
committee
look.
within the foundation,
put that out.
which is fairly neutral. So it's comprised of
Seconds
myself,
later.
our chief investment officer, and several other external parties.
Did I lose you guys?
Who are very DeFi focused. It gives them the ability to distribute this emissions protocol really in order to enable people to incentivize them to bring liquidity to Flare. So you know, one of the key planks of this is the
Can you
integration
hear
of Layer
Hugo
0
speaking?
and Stargate,
Also, Big
such
Will?
that people can bring USDC, USDT, and ETH, and possibly state ETH to Flare to start seeding liquidity in Flare's DeFi ecosystem. And the emissions protocol will be given, the emissions from the protocol will be given directly to applications in order to for them to apportion that into certain pools in order to incentivize liquidity.
Yeah, and I think that's especially important with stable coins as well, because obviously the F asset system is actually going to be backed a portion of stable coins as well, right?
Absolutely. So, one of the key aspects to launching the F asset system is generating sufficient stablecoin liquidity. As you know, agents within the F asset system have to put up stablecoins as their collateral in order to secure the bridging of things like Bitcoin and XRP, maybe Dogecoin, to Flare. They will need access to those stablecoins on chain. They will need the ability to borrow stablecoins against other tokens on chain. And so this is really a core plank of being able to generate that liquidity into the ecosystem to be able to launch the F assets. And Stargate really, through the emissions that are going to DEXs, lending protocols, perps protocols, and other DeFi protocols, will be essentially a beneficiary of this program, together with people like StarDex, who are SparkDex, who are one of the first entities that will be receiving a grant for liquidity.
Perfect. So you mentioned Stargate and SparkDex are going to be of the first beneficiaries, but I'd actually like to start here today with Layer Zero and Kenny. So it would be great if you could maybe give a brief introduction of Layer Zero for those that may be less familiar with the project.
Yeah, absolutely. So Layer Zero is a protocol that connects different blockchains and allows them to communicate with each other. You can really think of Layer Zero as like the internet for blockchains, right? Previously, you had these large computers that were kind of siloed and unable to communicate with each other. But the more that we saw this kind of Cambrian explosion of alt L1s, L2s, L3s, the more it became apparent that there was a messaging layer needed to kind of facilitate communication between all these different blockchains and all these different layers. So Layer Zero, our core principles are one, immutable. All of our smart contracts are written in immutable code. We've seen in the past like upgradable code be responsible for various exploits and hacks in the space, and we've managed to circumvent that completely through the use of non-upgradable contracts. Permissionless, right? So anyone can build on Layer Zero, and anyone can also verify cross-chain messages sent on Layer Zero. And our last kind of core principle is censorship resistance. So anytime a Layer Zero message is sent or emitted, it cannot be altered or changed in any way. And so, I guess the core part of the core part of the protocol architecture is through the deployment of endpoints, which are a set of immutable smart contracts that we deploy in all these different chains that we support, including Flare, that allow for the development of omni-chain applications, including some of our products like the OFT standard, which is basically an omni-chain fungible token standard that allows native asset transfer through the use of mint and burn. And then we also have products like ONFTs and also OAPs, which just means you can send anything from one chain to another. This can be things like price feeds, state data, etc. And so I think on the price feeds front, it becomes really interesting with the integration of Flare. Actually, last month at the hackathon in ETHCC, we saw a project kind of gather price feed like data from Flare's native oracles and a bunch of other data sources, collect the medium of those, and then use like a network of like almost solvers to kind of send those price feeds to the settlement chain, ultimately to build like a cross-chain borrow lending product. So we think implementations like that are going to be really interesting for Flare.
Yeah, 100%. I did actually see that project, so very impressive stuff. And yeah, so I guess Layer Zero is I guess almost like a standard between all of these different networks where the messages can be sent and interpreted in a similar way, right?
Yep, correct. We try to make it
Perfect.
as easy for developers to develop cross-chain as possible.
Well, could you, I guess, maybe give a high-level explanation of your general message passing protocol and how it works and the architectural design behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess to divert a little bit here, in the beginning of the year we launched the V2 of our protocol. In V1, we had Oracle relayer pairings that would the Oracle would send state data from one chain to another, so these different block headers, and then the relayer would send the transaction proof on the source chain. And then if those two came to agreement, we could, consider the transaction to be final, and then everything would be executed on the destination chain. Now in V2, we've introduced a new concept called decentralized verifier networks, or DVNs. And the idea with DVNs is that any permissionless entity can go and verify cross-chain messages sent on layer 0. And the idea behind this is that we don't think any dApp necessarily has like a perfect fit for verification methods. Like, for example, a game sending a bunch of microtransactions.
Okay, that's too much.
Independent. It sits somewhere. The idea is that like
Let's see if we can hear from someone else besides the layer 0 guy.
Yeah, interesting. And it's interesting to see how the evolution between V1 and V2 has evolved. So, yeah, how could this contribute to the Flare ecosystem in general? And maybe Hugo, maybe you want to chime in on this.
Well, I think we'll hear from Angus or Lamps, whichever one calls himself, in a minute about Stargate and how Stargate leverages layer 0. But I think from a slightly different perspective, we are coming out with F assets. We have the FTC, we have the FTSO. We're very interested in Flare being a DVN within the layer 0 network. We're working internally on some thoughts around having a particularly fast DVN to be able to get our Oracle, especially our pricing Oracle, out to other networks as quickly as possible. Obviously, Flare has a relatively high level of security relative to other sort of attestation-based networks. So we think it could be a very interesting fit for us.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the FTSO is extremely powerful. And are you saying, Hugo, that this would almost, I guess, amplify that by being able to emit the...
Well, I think you could emit the FTSO signal, but you could also emit proofs from Web 2 and Web 3, through the DVN. So for instance, give you a base use case when it comes to potentially bridging F assets to other networks. It would make sense that the network that is securing those F assets, in this case Flare, would also be the DVN for the transmission for those assets to other blockchains. So that's kind of a very interesting aspect. Being able to prove something on Flare from Web 2 and then being able to broadcast that across multiple chains would be very, we think, valuable both for Flare and for the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, maybe let's switch gears and talk to Angus Lamps from Stargate. It'd be great if you could briefly introduce, Stargate, what's going on behind the scenes in your team, maybe, and some of the key milestones that you've already achieved.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you again for having me on. So as I said at the start, Stargate Finance is a bridge that allows you to move value between various different networks. It is an application that is built on top of layer 0, and so leverages a lot of the power that both Kenny and Hugo have been talking about, essentially just for sending cross-chain messages. So Stargate's architecture is that there are pools of liquidity on many different chains. If I'm a user looking to bridge from, for example, Arbitrum to Optimism, then my USDC will get locked in a pool on Arbitrum. A layer 0 message will deliver over to Optimism, and it will release some assets from the pool into my wallet on Optimism. 7 or 8 weeks ago, we released Stargate V2, which was built on layer 0 endpoint V2, which Kenny was introducing just earlier. Stargate V2 merges two types of bridging architectures. I would say one is the pool architecture that I just mentioned, and the second is what we've called Hydra, which is this bridging as a service for ecosystems that are looking to bring in liquidity in the form of USDC, USDT, and wrapped ETH. And this is actually the form that Stargate has deployed to Flare. And so what that means for both users and developers within the Flare ecosystem is that now you are able to move an unlimited amount of liquidity from any of the chains that Stargate is connected to into the Flare ecosystem. So, if I'm a user and I have funds on a lot of the different L2s, Arbitrum, Base, Optimism, Linea, maybe I have some on Avalanche, I can move all of those assets into Flare with 0 fees and no slippage. And all of this happens across the 3 different assets that I mentioned. and leverages layer 0 for the security. And just very quickly to mention, because we were talking about DVNs, Stargate actually runs its own DVN. So the Stargate DAO elected that it wanted to be a part of its own security stack. And so Stargate has launched its own DVN, and so verifies every single layer 0 message that is part of the Stargate protocol. So yeah, I think in the past couple of months been very, very focused on firstly launching Stargate V2 and then making sure it's successful, and then now looking to expand it as far and wide as possible. I'm very excited to be launching on Flare.
Perfect. And you did mention the three assets. I think it was USDT, USDC, and Ethereum. Are there any plans to expand the range of assets that you support too?
Yeah, definitely. I think Stargate V1 was launched with these assets and had a couple others that didn't do a tremendous amount of volume. I think those three assets probably facilitate maybe 90 to 95% of the bridging volume that we see within DeFi at the moment. However, I know there's a lot of now interest for other assets, such as maybe a yield-bearing stablecoin, or maybe some staked ETH derivative, LSTs, LRTs. So I think the DAO and the community is always looking to ensure that Stargate is able to support users who are looking to bridge. I think obviously the goal isn't just to be a bridge for those three assets. The goal is to be a bridge for all assets that are available. And I should point out actually that the Stargate front end is also, you can also bridge all sorts of different OFTs. So OFTs again being the on-chain fungible token that Kenny mentioned. Stargate acts as the front end for the majority of the OFTs that exist there out there today. So the STG token itself is an OFT, but Athena's USDE, EtherFi's WrapD ETH, a lot of the LSTs these days are OFTs and can all be bridged over Stargate as well. So I think Stargate at the moment looks like those three core assets and some OFTs, but is always looking to expand.
Yeah, that's great news. I think with bridging as well, it's a lot of people have queries on maybe the speed or the cost of being able to bridge. Could you speak maybe a little bit about the fees and the cost on Hydra Bridge? Is it mainly, I guess, dictated by the native gas of the chain that you're bridging from, or how does all of that work?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll introduce it and then kind of talk about how that might compare. So when you are bridging from any chain into the Flare ecosystem, in terms of cost, you are paying for your source chain transaction to submit your transaction on, for example, Arbitrum, and then being built on layer 0 means that we can abstract away any destination gas from the user. And so you may be paying 1 or 2 cents to submit your transaction on Arbitrum, and then probably a fraction of a cent to submit your transaction on Flare, but all of that is paid upfront. So from the user's perspective, I'm trying to bridge $100, 100 USDC from Arbitrum to Flare. I'll be paying a couple cents to bridge all on the source chain on Arbitrum, and I will receive 100 USDC on Flare. And there is, when bridging into a Hydra chain, which Flare is, then there's no protocol fee. So you can bridge $100 and receive exactly $100. You could bridge $1 million and receive exactly $1 million. So there's actually no fees at all when bridging into Flare, other than your kind of gas fees that you're paying for both source and destination. And this is actually something that's quite unique within the bridging ecosystem. I'm not sure how many people have been following the quote unquote bridge wars on Twitter, but there's been a lot of discussion around which bridge at the moment is the cheapest and which one can help users facilitate the most size and is the fastest and things like that. And there really is no competition when comparing something to Stargate V2's Hydra. It is the only bridge on the market that can offer this 0 fees and 0 slippage architecture. And I think it really, for an ecosystem like Flare, I think it will really enable quite significant volume to be bridged in for something like a FlareFi summer. So very, very excited to see how that plays out. And then on the second point on latency, again, kind of goes back to being built on top of layer 0. So the way that a layer 0 message works is that when you submit your source chain transaction, the message will only be passed to destination after a certain number of block confirmations on the source chain. So taking my Arbitrum to Flare example, once I submit my source chain transaction on Arbitrum, the Stargate protocol will wait for 20 block confirmations on Arbitrum before sending that layer 0 message over to the destination side. And so when you're bridging from Arbitrum to Flare, you're probably waiting about 30, 35, maybe 40 seconds for that transaction to reach Flare. And then obviously the destination transaction, as soon as that's submitted, you will receive your assets. And so latency will always depend on where you're coming from. And so from a lot of the L2s, it's relatively fast, between kind of that 30 to 50 seconds. When you're coming from Ethereum, it waits for 15 blocks, for example, which is about 180 seconds. So you're waiting about 3 minutes. But I think the most important thing here is that no matter what size you're bridging with, you are always waiting for the same amount of time. There's no kind of extra amount of time tagged on for any larger transactions. The protocol is entirely immutable and censorship resistant as well, built on a lot of the same ideas as layer 0. And so if you're bridging $100, you'll wait 30 to 50 seconds. If you're bridging $10 million, you'll wait 30 to 50 seconds, which I think is nice from a UX perspective, that you always know what to expect.
Yeah, 100%. And also from a user perspective, it's great that the cost, because like you said, I think when it comes to bridging, you can't get much cheaper than free. Obviously excluding the negligible network fee on most chains anyway. I guess to Hugo, I guess could you maybe elaborate on the Stargate V2 integration coinciding with the launch of the major DeFi incentive program on Flare? So we did briefly touch on this earlier. You know, how does this play into the adoption of stable coins, and why is it so crucial for the F asset system?
Absolutely. So, as you know, we're building the F asset system. We now have lots of DEXs, perps protocols, Kinetic launching a really strong lending protocol. Once F assets are here, you'll need something to do. With those F assets, you'll need to be able to lend them. You'll need to be able to seed them in a DEX. You'll need to be able to use them in perps markets. All of that requires liquidity. And then, as I said earlier, the F assets themselves, they're secured in a combination of stablecoins and Flare. So in order to get those stablecoins, we have to get them onto the network somehow. Obviously, we have USDX as a native stablecoin, together with the natively yielding CUSDX. But it's absolutely true that USDC and USDT are the largest stablecoins by a country mile in the space. Stargate V2 gives us access to those, and Stargate V2 has essentially been chosen by the Flare Foundation as the canonical bridge into Ethereum and those other ecosystems.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So I'm gonna hop off here. I just wanted to share some of that. It's interesting stuff. Again, when I listen to these guys talk and Hugo talk, Flare is changing the game, and it is a mutual thing for sure, mutual benefits. But Flare Networks is changing the game, and I think upping the game, if you will, for both Stargate and for Layer 0. I really, really do believe that. So it was just smart to kind of get together and hook up with those guys for sure, and I think it was certainly smarter for Stargate and Layer 0. Stargate will get the benefit from the emissions for sure. And I think that Flare Networks as this DVN or M, they're calling it, for Layer 0 is going to be a game changer as well. So shout out to all the FLR token holders. It's going to be an interesting cycle if we get the cycle that we're all hoping for. It's going to be very, very interesting for the FLR, for the Flare ecosystem. Can't wait for those things to get launched, to get up and running. Can't wait to get more utility for XRP. And don't sleep on the live stream I did earlier today. I talked about Lotus Protocol, building on Root Network to leverage XRP for lending and borrowing and DeFi for XRP. It's called Lotus Protocol. Now they're building out something. So it's not yet built, but that's something that is coming. But I do think the minting of the F assets on Flare Networks will probably be the first kind of thing. to get more utility for XRP, for sure. Unless you're familiar with some couple of other things out there like Chain, where you can lend and borrow your XRP. I don't know if it's called StakeFi, STAYKI or FI. I don't know, but that's supposed some apparently kind of staking thing for XRP. But I don't know enough about it. I did not play with it or integrate anything with that. I am definitely looking to see what Flare Networks is going to have. What are they going to have available for utility for XRP? We'll see. Layer 0 and Stargate gives that XRP some places to go if there's some liquidity somewhere in these things as well. And I think the first two assets to mint are going to be XRP and Bitcoin, right? And so we're going to need some places to do some stuff with that XRP that will be minted. So it'll be interesting to see nonetheless. All right, fam. Listen, thank you so much for hanging out. I'm gonna hop off here. I appreciate you guys checking in for sure. I know I guess the Bitcoin conference is going on as well, so we want to make sure we can get some video time for that as well. I appreciate you guys checking in. Do me a favor and hit that like button on the way out if you didn't do so on the way in. That would be super, super awesome. And again, if you happen to be in that 45% or so of people who are listening and watching the Crypto Siege and haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you've been enjoying those hangouts, we want to get that 50% down to about 25% or so for people who haven't subscribed yet to the channel. On our way, in a fast way, to 10,000 subs so that we can begin doing some high quality interviews. I'm really looking forward to doing that as well. All right, fam, listen, I'm going to end this live stream like I do all of my live streams and remind you guys of this. Old money doesn't want you to win. But that's okay, though, because you and we're already winning. And I would ask you to to consider this, perhaps ponder the idea or notion of living your life permissionless. I'll talk to you guys soon. See ya. Bye.